got to be able to live with yourself. Did he turn out to be a drug addict? And I want to believe that he needed those drugs to cope with who he really was and what he was doing at night.
Why is it, in your opinion, that Black people almost are demanded to get behind everybody's social movement that has nothing to do with Black people?
In 2002, Jam Master Jay was killed. And for some reason, my name got circulated, right? I was never charged, I was never questioned, but I was maligned. My name was all over the front page of the newspaper.
Welcome back to another episode of the Black and Jewish podcast. I'm here with my special guest today, Curtis Scoon. He is a film producer, a political strategist, and editor-in-chief of ScoonTV. Curtis, thank you for being with me today.
Man, thank you for having me, Ashira. What an introduction.
Excited.
I love it.
So if you guys don't know, I was interviewed by Scoon a few months ago. So now it's coming full circle now that you're here and I get to interview you from my show. Mm-hmm. So you have so much range. We could talk about tons of things.
Whatever
but what
you
I
want.
want
Let's go.
to jump into is how you got into producing films.
You know, I was not formally trained. I had an incident, a pivotal incident in my life around 2002. And I tried to turn that into a money-making venture because I believe that like a blessing and a curse are one and the same. The difference being in the application. See, it's how you let things affect you that determine what they really are, right?
Yeah.
That's how I see it, right? And so even though it was bad, I tried to turn it. And it was a bad experience, but I tried to make something positive of it. And I end up getting a book deal through a Jewish writer named Ethan Brown.
Wow.
Right? I was not the author, but it was my idea, it was my pitch, and the book was called Queens Reign Supreme, Rise of the Hip Hop Hustler. It received a starred review in Publishers Weekly, and it was published by Knopf Random House, and an article that I wrote in Playboy magazine called Framed and Defamed, which was about that pivotal incident in my life, you know, was instrumental as part of the book proposal. It was Ethan's first book, and he was writing for New York Magazine at the time. So the timing, right, was that American Gangster started being produced on BET.
Right, okay.
And because of the book and the success of the book, they contacted Ethan. But, you know, even though I wasn't the author of record, Ethan had no relationship with the people in the book, right? It was all my relationships because I come from that place, right? And I talked to Nelson George, and I end up being a consultant on the first season.
Of American Gangster?
Yes. Yeah, I did. I was a consultant and on camera for the Fat Cat Nichols episode. Then
You were acting in it?
No, they were interviewing me.
Oh, you got interviewed.
Yeah,
Okay.
They interviewed me, right? And the reason why, my motivation for that was because I had wrote a script about Fat Cat, but we'll get around to that, called 1013 Officer Down, right? That's the NYPD code for a shot officer. So my motivation for doing the Fat Cat story and getting on camera was to increase the likelihood of getting the film made because I wrote the spec script. That's why I went to Playboy, as a matter of fact, because I realized that, you know, we think that these projects that we have are going to do something for us. And maybe they will, but for me, I realized that it starts with me, that I have to become a commodity in order for my projects to succeed. The projects are an extension of who I am. So that's when I started with the self-promotion, because I really don't like the spotlight like that. At least I did.
Oh, I can tell. The way you be tweeting, we'll get to that later, though.
I've adapted to it, right? But
you're comfortable now.
Yeah. Now I'm comfortable, right? So that was my thing. In the second season, I co-produced the Supreme McGriff episode. And my third season, I fully produced the Jamaican Shower Posse episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Take me back to Framed and Defamed. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So how can you tell us what that story was? What was that?
Well,
what
what
your
happened
experience?
was in 2002, Jam Master Jay was killed. And for some reason, my name got circulated, right? I was never charged. I was never questioned, but I was maligned. My name was all over the front page of the newspaper, all over the TV, everything.
Why did they choose you to frame?
Well, people who were connected to the actual murder, and by the way, those people are now convicted and incarcerated. It took 18 years for them to arrest the people. So everything that I've done, whether it be in publishing, TV, mental health, politics, I did it all with that cloud over my head. Wow. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of people
Your name wasn't cleared.
Never. Nobody. There was nobody arrested, nobody convicted. And in a murder case, as long as there's nobody convicted, there's always the possibility that it could have been me. So it made everything that I had to do that much more difficult.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you start making these connections to, make these projects come to life? Because people with your story or people who are maybe have that story right now, they have tons of excuses. You could have had that excuse like, my name is defamed right now. No one's going to work with me. Like, how did you keep pushing through and still produce?
I have a strong will and faith, right? And the story, it started with Playboy. Playboy had a submission email, and I didn't submit an article. That's the other thing about me. Everything I do is pretty much unorthodox. Regardless of what the parameters are that they provide, I'm always going to come with my own parameters. So I emailed, you submit your article, but I said, I don't have an article. This is who I am. I haven't talked to anybody, but I'll talk to you first.
Oh, you just submitted your story.
I just submitted the idea. I didn't even tell the whole story. I said, this is who I am. I haven't talked to anyone, not even the police, but I'll talk to you. But I was also aware that Playboy at the time was looking to cross over to an urban audience. And then I told them this was the ideal story. They were looking to cover more urban content. And Chris Napolitano, who was the features editor at the time, he emailed me. And because I understand psychology so well, I knew when he emailed me that he was really gauging me to see if I'm somebody he could even work with.
Right.
And because, I've read a lot, so I have a pretty decent vocabulary, and my writing skills, they tell me are pretty good. So in my communications with him, what I was really doing was demonstrating my intelligence and articulation, because it's Playboy we're talking about, right? And most people think Playboy is like smut or was smut or whatever, but there's a lot of really good articles in Playboys because their target audience has always been male power brokers, or wannabe.
It wasn't all about just like sex stuff, how we think of Playboy.
No, they put the pictures of the women in there, but there was a lot of really good articles. And I chose Playboy because a producer from LA named Brian Grazer, I think Imagine Entertainment, he had an option agreement with Playboy for their articles. So that's why I selected them. Everything I do is calculated. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm not a clout chaser. If I do something, I have to know, I know there's no guarantees, but there has to be at least a possibility that it could turn into something else. I like that perpetual motion. You know what I mean?
Do you think that going to Playboy and going to the media with your project, was that in part to also clear your name? To tell your story? Because you said, no, I haven't talked to police about this. I'm going to talk about this and make it public to try to clear my name. Was that the intention?
Let me say this. One, my attorney was furious. He was Jewish too, Marvin Kornberg, by the way.
Okay.
Right?
We're going to talk about that Black and Jewish relations in New York too. You're going to tell me everything, how you grew up, everything.
Look. Marvin Kornberg was my attorney, and he was furious because you're not supposed to talk to the press without, especially when you got an open case, you could say something that could give them,
leverage.
But I don't, like I told you, I'm unorthodox. I do what's best for me because everybody else is doing what's best for them. I had my own agenda, and my agenda was to take this situation that I didn't ask for, that I didn't deserve, that I had nothing to do with, and make it work for me. Like the old saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was doing. And I wasn't going to let my attorney,
dictate your life.
It's my life. Thank you.
You have to take it
because
into
if I don't
hands.
pay him, I'm on my own anyway.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look.
Now I feel it. I'm like, that's so much courage and bravery. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that. I mean, I would say we just need more men like that in America right now. I don't know if people still have that
I gotta agree.
Courage and bravery to just say, like, I don't care how the system goes. I'm my own man, and I'm going to tell my story, and I'm going to control this situation my way.
So when I that was my motivation to reach out to Playboy, was to try to get a career going, because you're not going to get your innocence in the court of public opinion. You got to do that in the court of law, right? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't about trying to clear my name or none of that. On the surface it was, but I know that this is a story that it doesn't really matter what they say if people say something different in court. But in the meantime, I'm trying to get momentum because I'm broke.
Right.
I need some money.
Right.
In case I do have a fight on my hands.
No, I feel that. I'm like, right.
You understand? So, yeah.
So, Scoon, did you have anyone threatening your life at the time? I mean, it's J Master J. Were you having to live quietly, low, put your head down? Were you afraid that people were trying to come after you, just like in the streets?
I heard that there was money put on my head, but I don't know for sure, right? But I always move like that anyway, so
yeah.
I'm not a Showtime kind of guy. I'm not like in the club in the sections, and I never been.
You're not popping bottles.
So it wasn't really a big adjustment for me. I always move a certain way, and the way that I move is actually conducive for being in the spotlight in times like that. So it was okay, But yeah, so I did that, and Chris told me, he got on the phone with me after a few emails, and he said, Scoon, I want to pitch this story, but there's nobody better to pitch it than you.
Oh.
So he set up the call with his bosses at Playboy, and I took the call and I told them everything. They was thinking about getting Blue Cantrell, and I told them, I said, Blue Cantrell is good, but the Jam Master Jay story will get you the urban audience that you're looking for. And Blue Cantrell never made it into Playboy, but I did. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So how was your project received from the urban community? How did it do in Playboy?
I know Chris got a promotion. He went from features editor to executive editor because Hugh Hefner is the only editor-in-chief of Playboy. So he went from features editor to executive editor. In other words, he was doing great.
Project.
I don't know if just from this project, but this project played a major role in it for sure.
Well, I like that humility.
Listen, I take credit for what I did, but I'm not delusional. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Speaking of just film, the industry, we know there's a big case going on with Diddy right now.
Okay.
Now, I want to get your thoughts on this. I seen one of your tweets, and I don't remember word for word, but you said there are no black billionaires. It was all an illusion. And 2, that this is just another example of blackface, but on evil, on evil now. So they're using blackface for evil. So tell me, like, what do you think about those two statements you made, and then just the Diddy case in general, and what do you think is going to happen to him? Do you think it's going to be Epstein's? I want to know your thoughts.
You got the right one.
Okay.
Let me tell you. What I was saying is that these guys, these entertainers that are being promoted as billionaires are not that. There are black billionaires, but they're not shucking and jiving on stage and rapping, running around with their pants falling off and all that. You understand? But when you understand how the game is, all people need their heroes, right? So the people who subjugate people, they create heroes and leaders for them. I call them misleaders because their job is to mislead. You know, whether it be a Jay-Z, and I got no hate towards Jay-Z or any of these people, right? They're not the type of man that I am, because I would never let anybody use me to facilitate the exploitation of masses of people like that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't mean that much to me to be on private jets and in the south of France and all these things that they like to flaunt because they want to justify their own treachery. So they want to seem like it's worth it. Look at what I got.
Oh,
wow.
Look at all, thought about that.
Yeah, look at all this designer stuff. Yo, man, it was worth it. You know what I mean? But no, it's not worth it, because material things are just that. You got to be able to live with yourself. Diddy turned out to be a drug addict, and I want to believe that he needed those drugs to cope with who he really was and what he was doing at night. And when you or in the day, and when you're so vile, right, it's almost as a coping mechanism, you need to infect everyone else with your vileness so you don't feel isolated like it's just you. Like, who do you think you are? You're no better than me, see? And this is why they go around recruiting people and enticing them and sucking them into that life. Some of these people would be listening to what I'm saying right now and get upset. Because what I'm doing is showing them that you really didn't have to do that. Yeah. You did that.
Yeah.
You know, you could have been okay just being a regular guy or a regular gal. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
do you believe that you cannot make it in the industry, in the music industry, without doing that, without having to exploit Black people? Without having to do the freak offs, without having to do, we hear about different rituals that happen in Hollywood, and not just Black people do them, but I'm just saying this for this conversation's sake. But, do you think that to have success in the music industry, that's what comes with it? Let's
be clear. These people didn't leave the Black community with these tendencies and behaviors, right? Association brings forth assimilation. They are assimilating into a culture that existed before they even knew about it, right? Because they wanted to be a part of something and didn't even understand what it was they wanted to be a part of. Yeah. And before you know it, they were just too far gone. It's the drugs, it's the parties, it's the blackmail. It's over.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, I think to your question whether people can make it without these things, yes, I do. But you have to be willing to do what needs to be done in the amount of time that's required. And a lot of us want things fast, and we want it easy. Yeah. And that's where the door opens for all this degeneracy and deviancy. You see, I did a film, Black, White, and Blue. It's on Amazon. Almost 5 stars, 4.7, something like that. I didn't really make any money off of it. But I'm on nobody's freak-off tapes either, right? Like, you look at that.
And it did well. People watched it.
People watched it.
Yeah.
And it's a process. I'm working on my second independent, not the American Gangster stuff, because I got my training from American Gangster, but now I finance my own films. I'm doing Born the Box. It's a docuseries. Yes, it's tough because I'm not beholden to anyone, right?
Right.
And nobody really wants to help you unless they kind of like own you, control you. And that's the other thing. You have to understand, if you choose to go independent, you can't be whining about all the difficulties that you're facing.
Curtis,
Because
can people go independent and still make money? Can you finance your own projects?
I haven't done it. Let me say that.
Okay.
But I'm going to keep trying until I do.
Right. And wealthy is relative. I don't know, that means different numbers to anybody,
Listen,
but being
I'm
able
not
to
in the
eat
black. I'm in the red with all my projects, okay? So we don't even have to deal about wealth.
So I was like, I'm not counting your dollars. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So you think it's possible to keep your integrity, be independent, and finance your own projects?
Yeah, I do. But it's a matter of time. And people just have to be realistic of how special that is. That it's like almost like hitting the lottery. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we expect difficult things to be so attainable for us. A lot of us, we struggle doing the basic things in life, and then we set goals to do these grandiose things. We're just not being realistic,
Oh, talk to me. Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're just not being realistic. So for me, what I call filmmaking my hobby, because it doesn't pay my bills.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some people like to travel, and I like to make films. And eventually one of them will click, right?
Yeah.
All it has to do.
So you have your hobby, and then you're saying, I have what pays my bills too.
That's right.
And people want just their hobby.
They want their hobby to pay their bills.
Yes. And sometimes it doesn't pay your bills.
They want that sexy trust fund baby life, but you come from nothing though.
Yeah.
You gotta be real. You gotta look at your mom, look at your dad, not to put them down, but they went to work every day. What make you think that you could just have this trust fund baby life? And you're not a trust fund baby. There are people who can just wake up every day and dilly-dally and hang out at Starbucks with their MacBook and pretend that they're having meetings and all that.
Wait, I be at Starbucks with my MacBook. I am having meetings.
No,
he's talking to us millennials and Gen Zers. Go to work, guys. Go to work.
Yeah, you just got to be real. You got to do what you got to do until you get to the place where you can do what you want to do. You see, and I'm 60 years old, and filmmaking, I like it. But it's just a hobby for me until
it's not.
Until it's not. And in the meantime, I don't feel pressured or stressed out. I don't need a psychiatrist or anything because I have other things going on. That's why when you was asking me about how to introduce, I do so many things. Yeah. You see, I'm like the everything man. Like, as long as it's honorable and I can maintain my integrity, I'm with it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to like it, right? I don't want to put this on race, but to me, just as a black man, I feel like I got to take whatever life hand me and work with that. I can't sit around and wait for what I think I deserve. And a lot of people are just, that's what they do, and they wait forever. And nothing ever comes because they're waiting for the wrong thing. It keeps coming, but they don't recognize it.
Wow. Curtis, I want to go back to the Diddy thing in terms of how the black community is receiving it. So my brother is a big YouTuber, and he made a video, and he said he's seen I don't know if you've seen Piers Morgan's interview.
I saw it with Jaguar Wright. I saw it.
So my brother talked about that and what she said about Jay-Z, and he's interviewed her too before, and he said, when white publications or white media starts to pick up these stories, my brother said, I'm not condoning what Diddy did, but he said, for some reason in my gut, it starts to feel like, they want black people to look embarrassed. And he said he feels a type of way when white media starts to speak about what's happening in our communities. How do you feel about that? Like, some people have said, I'm going to stand by Diddy because that's a black man. And then other people have said, why can't we just call out his degeneracy? And that's not associated with black culture. That's not associated with us as a community. And why do we feel shamed? But should we be protecting our own per se? But also, on the other hand, my argument's like, well, some of these victims that Diddy had, they're other black people as well. So What do you think?
These are my thoughts. Nobody should be protecting Diddy. That's number one.
Yeah.
But if you really care about what Diddy is accused of doing, you have to understand it doesn't stop with Diddy, right? It goes beyond Diddy. That whole celebrity music industry apparatus, it seems to be a social engineering type of thing, in my opinion. And Diddy is just a foot soldier in that dynamic.
What's the social engineering?
Well, you got to look at how hip hop transformed black people. But first, it started with black youth, and then black youth got extended into middle age. Now, when they say youth, they could be talking about somebody 35 years old, 40 years old. Look, it has changed words, everything, and they use rappers to promote all kinds of degenerate criminality. They popularize it. What has happened in the entertainment business is that they enticed these so-called artists and celebrities by rewarding them for popularizing dysfunction. They have taken the most dysfunctional elements in the black community, whether it be the street gangs or whatever, strippers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they've rewarded them, and by so doing, you see, when you reward a thing, you perpetuate it, right? So now, the crack broke up the families, first the heroin in the 70s, then the crack in the 80s. So you got a bunch of these kids who are growing up without proper guidance, right? And the celebrities who are promoting some of the most self-destructive behaviors become their role models. Everybody wants to be a rapper.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and look at what the rappers are talking about.
Right.
Look at what they're promoting. It's all self-destruction. They call it black culture, but it's not black culture. It's pop culture.
It's pop culture.
You see, it is not black culture. But per usual, they put black faces on all the problematic things in society so we could be the bad guys. You know, when George Herbert Walker Bush ran, he singled out Willie Horton, a black criminal out of Massachusetts. And I want to believe society is always looking for a Willie Horton. Right now, Diddy is Willie Horton. And that's not to say that he's innocent. I couldn't care less what happens to Diddy.
Right.
Let me be clear.
Right.
But I know that if he was to go down, nothing would change. So if we really care, we got to get to the root of things, right?
Yeah.
And nobody wants to do that. Now, a lot of these people, what your brother was saying, like white people enjoying putting a black face on it, some of them may, I don't know. But that, to me, that's not the issue. That's a non-issue, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, we need to hold our own accountable before it even gets to this point.
Yeah.
And also, because black people tend to not have any real power or real connections, it's always safer. There's no way somebody like Piers Morgan should have someone like Jaguar Wright on his platform levying attacks against Jay-Z and Diddy. Now, Diddy, I've been around. I've heard things about Diddy for 30 years now.
Yeah.
I always knew he was a scumbag, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not a friend of Jay-Z's, right? As a matter of fact, I tell people all the time, they're just a sidebar. The first time anyone outside of New York heard Jay-Z's music, it was because I put it in the DJ's hands, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and I never got paid for it.
Yeah.
So, but fear is fear, though. I never heard anything about Jay, and that doesn't mean he's innocent.
Yeah.
He could be just a lot tighter with what he do.
Right.
But I feel like people are just, now it's a feeding frenzy. And you got to be careful. And as someone who was wrongfully accused before, I'm very sensitive to making allegations without any kind of evidence, because when we're black, nobody believes that we did good anyway. You understand what I'm saying? Like, yo, so I get it.
It's easier to believe that that person's at fault.
It's so much easier and it's safer. it's safer to accuse black people because there ain't gonna be no consequences. You see what I'm saying? Like, we know that even about each other. Why do you think there's so much black on black crime? Right across the Anacostia where my business is, right? We on Capitol Hill. This is Southeast, but this ain't Southeast, okay?
Okay.
You cross that 11th Street Bridge and go across the Anacostia, and you're over there by Good Hope Road, you're gonna see the real Southeast.
Okay.
You go over there, you know who the safest people are over there?
Who?
The white gentrifiers. Everybody knows better than to touch one of them. You know why?
Why?
Because the police, the mayor, everybody's gonna have a press conference out there.
Right.
But if somebody black gets killed, it might not even make the newspaper. And that is a microcosm of what we deal with on every level. Everybody knows they can exploit us. They can drag us. They can malign us. And they don't worry about any consequences.
What do you think the solution to that would be in terms of what we could do as a community? So I just left Brooklyn. I was there for the high holidays. And I never spent time in Brooklyn. I'm from California, as you know. I think I told you. So I'm in Crown Heights. And
you're in Jewish Center, huh?
Yeah, I'm with my people. And I'm like looking around of how it operates. And the people in Crown Heights in terms of community are so tight. They have their own ambulances. They have their own security. It's all Jewish.
The Jewish community.
The Jewish community. Yeah, they have their own ambulances. They have their own security guards. There was obviously SWAT team and police, but the Jewish community ensured that they have their own. And so I was thinking, like, what if the black community did the same thing in all of their communities, like policed their own neighborhoods, had their own ambulances, like made sure, and Crown Heights is heavily Orthodox Jews, so it's not non-Orthodox Jews. So Orthodox Jews, they take it to another level because they have all these laws that they keep. So they really, really, protect their Judaism and their people in that way. And there was a house there of a man, and he opens up his house 24/7, and he's hired immigrants, and he turned the whole house into like a huge kitchen. So in the front yard, the backyard, it's all kitchens, and he feeds people 24/7, Jews and non-Jews. And you can just go there and you can eat and you can get meals all day long, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Him.
And so I was just thinking to myself, like, they have barricaded that Crown Heights area and made sure, like, hey, if they won't protect us, then we'll protect our own people. So do you think that Black people could build certain things like that where we could hold each other accountable? Like, say there is a murder in our neighborhood. Obviously, we go to the police and justice and civil systems, but where there's repercussions for what you do in our community, if that makes sense. Like,
listen,
when you slip in our community and you do something that the community says, hey, we don't get down like that, there are repercussions. And that repercussion may be that you are outcast from the Black community or whatever it is. Do you think that's something we could have?
Let's talk about the Orthodox Jewish community in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I'm from New York.
Yes.
I went to high school in Brooklyn, right in Fort Greene.
Okay.
I'm very familiar. The Labor Day parade goes down Eastern Parkway right through Crown Heights.
Okay.
The Jews, I'm familiar with Rabbi Schneerson, Moshiach, that they're waiting for.
Yeah.
I know about all of it, right?
Yeah. I'm not Chabad, but that's what I was with at 770,
Look, this is what I'm telling you. I'm familiar, right? Couple things. In those Jewish households, what do you have? You have a patriarchy. In the Black household, what do you have?
A matriarchy.
There it is. That's why it'll never happen the same way, right? Also, those.
I'm glad you said that because even with my podcast, the Black and Jewish podcast, when I went to Crown Heights, I'm like, Black people and Jewish, like, what's the beef? Like, they live on top of each other. They're all in the same poor neighborhood. They're all in the same poor stoop. Like, I'm looking at the Jewish kids sitting out on the stoop. I'm looking at the Black kids sitting out on their stoop. So I'm like, what is it? What's the big?
Well, the structure.
Yeah. So you're saying it's family structure.
It starts there. It doesn't end there, though. A lot of those Jews in Brooklyn, those Hasidic Jews, they own a lot of businesses, even though they live there.
Yeah.
They're not poor, okay?
Yeah. Well, a lot of them are, but some of them are not.
Even the poor ones are still in a better situation than their black neighbors, right? Not
Okay.
all the black neighbors, but most of them, right?
Okay.
Because they have a community that won't allow them to sink but so low anyway.
That is true. You could eat free as a Jew every day.
You see what I'm saying?
Every day.
When I say they're not poor, I'm talking about collectively, right?
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
going around taking a
Same thing
survey,
doing- yeah.
right?
No, because I was just in the homes and I was
Yeah.
like, no, it's pretty poor. But
Yeah,
yes.
no, I've seen them all. I've grown up with them. I've watched the women shave their head bald and wear wigs and all kind. I grew up in New York.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's my home.
Yeah.
And second of all, those patrols that you see, who are they there to patrol? Who are they looking for? Who are the suspects? Who are they protecting their community from?
That I don't know. Anyone who's anti-Semitic.
Well, they're protecting their community from their black neighbors. Let's keep it 100. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. That's exactly what's happening.
You know, with the Crown Heights riots.
With Gavin
and,
Cato and all that, yes.
Yeah, so there's been tensions. But also
There was tensions before that, though.
But also when I was down there, I seen, tons of black people speaking Yiddish and very familiar. And I see it, I don't know, from what I see, just the experience. You talk about experience. I don't get it. Like, I don't see the beef. Maybe because I don't live there.
I don't think,
But,
I don't think there is a beef per se.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Because it's not like something that manifests every day on site. They live among each other.
Yeah.
However, all it takes is one incident
Right.
and the battle lines are drawn.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
You're right.
But other than that, everybody's just living their life.
Right.
You see, but it takes one incident. I'm going to show you something. When I was younger, right, I was going to high school. But there was these hats that Russian Jews wear, the fur
the
hats.
big ones.
The mink hats and all that.
Yes. It's called a streimel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, so the young guys used to want them. They used to snatch them off the Jews' heads. Not because they were Jewish, though. See, every time something happens between people of different backgrounds, it's not because it's a hate crime. Yeah. A lot of times it's a crime of opportunity, right?
Right. They just wanted the fur.
They just wanted the fur. It doesn't make it right.
Right.
But you will find people that will turn that into, these are hate crimes against Jews, right?
Yeah.
They're crimes. The people who did it are wrong, but I've seen it.
Yeah.
They would take the mink hats, all of them. I think the Jewish community in Brooklyn, they protect themselves because they are very different. And they're not just different from the black people, by the way. They're different from the non-Jewish white people. And they kind of have an isolated existence.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
100%.
So.
Even the Jews over in Five Towns. I interviewed one and I said, how was it growing up with your non-Jewish friends? And he said, to be honest, I didn't have any non-Jewish friends.
Yeah, they're pretty isolated, segregated.
They're very insular.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I don't know if it's a bunch of anti-Semitism going on out there, but I think that it's a matter of people just being different. And now when you're dealing with kids, right?
Yeah.
Or young people or uneducated people, when there's a conflict, what are they going to do? They're going to try to hurt you with words, right? I think black people, right, of a certain educational level are very irresponsible with the vocabulary they use. And people use that against them to say that they hate. No, they don't really hate.
Yeah.
They just not really good at expressing themselves.
Right. No, I feel that. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, some do.
Yeah.
But the reality is, man, I don't know any black people in my life who ever said, we got to go out and do something to some white people.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
They may have went out and done something to white people, but I don't think
it's not because they're white. It's just because they wanted to commit a crime or what'd you say?
Correct.
Opportunity.
Or somebody that they thought was going to be easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or somebody who they thought had something.
Yeah.
They may not even have had anything, but
So you need people to understand that it's beyond race. It's what's
I'm
going
trying
on
to
in
help
people's
out right
minds.
now.
Yeah.
You know, listen, I know a lot of bad people, right?
Yeah.
I'm not proud to say it.
Yeah.
And it's not as cut and dry as everybody wants it to be. People will take every incident and try to fit it into the narrative they need to advance their agenda.
Do you think that the Black community would benefit from being more insular and less integrative and more? Do you think segregation was good for Black people in terms of thriving economically?
I think segregation forced Black people to do that which they will not do voluntarily, which is to circulate the money within the community before it leaves. It puts us in a position where we can hire each other. When we say support Black businesses, it isn't because we hate white businesses. Lord knows we love white businesses. We can't wait to give them our money, right? But you can't be mad at us for wanting that money to work to our benefit before it leaves. It's gonna leave, right?
Yeah.
I look at Black people as the plankton of this economic food chain. It all starts with us because for whatever reason, we just spend, give away our money. Every immigrant group, you see, and this is the thing this is my issue I have with Blacks when they like to blame Jews so much, right? I'm not saying that Jews don't take advantage of Blacks. My question is, who doesn't, right? Like, look, every immigrant, whether it be Arabs, Indians,
Africans,
they first touch down in the Black community because they know that's where they're gonna make their money.
right?
So if you got a
All
problem,
the hair shops by the Asians.
come on now, if you
Yeah.
got a problem with anybody who's not Black making money off of you, then why don't you do your own business?
Right.
You know?
Right.
You cannot be mad at something that you support. Now, back to segregation. In segregation, there were Black business classes, Black people who made money. Robert Johnson, John Johnson, excuse me, Ebony and Jet magazine, Black publisher out of Chicago. Oh man, he was big.
Yeah.
Because he provided that Black media outlet that Black people supported, because that's where we got our news from. What integration did was it deconstructed the Black economic infrastructure. I don't know if it was intended to do that or not. I do know that around 1953, the Commerce Department produced a documentary with John Johnson from Ebony and Jet, How to Sell the Negro. It's on YouTube right now. And it's a fascinating thing to watch because it speaks to what kind of thought processes go into the Black mind before parting with the money, right? And it holds true to this day.
What were some of the thought processes?
Well, it made it clear that we tried to buy validation. And that is a direct result of where we stand in society and the slavery experience. That is part of the residue, the psychological residue of slavery. And everybody takes advantage of it, right? We even take advantage of it when dealing with our own people.
For example?
Listen, all of this talking Black this and Black that by these Black political people that don't do anything for Black people, that's it right there. The Black elite pretty much have taken advantage of that psychological residue from slavery, that fear of the white man, that need to see someone Black who is successful.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And then they turn around, man, and they do the same thing.
Yeah.
Back to that documentary. They had mentioned that the Black community had a net worth. They had 15, I think it was $15 billion of spending money
Right.
in 1953. The way I saw that is that they were pretty much telling the whites who didn't like blacks, like, listen, they got some money.
Yeah.
Because the civil rights...
Sell to them.
It was if you watch it, you will understand this was the beginning, because the following year in 1954 was Emmett Till, and then the civil rights movement started. You know that.
Yeah.
So it was a sales pitch to let white America know, and they presented black people as black versions of white. You're not old enough to remember these shows, but like Leave It to Beaver and My Three Sons, the black people was dressed like they were going out to a play, but at home at the dinner table. They wanted to present us as being a black version of high white society.
And that was the validation we needed.
Well, we bought right into that, right? That was the validation they needed to push that integration and get other whites to accept it. Of course, the whites in the South were a little different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A little different, just a tad.
Yeah, look, but it's all psychological. All of it is psychological. And people are being moved around en masse. For what reasons? That's why I call it social engineering. Because it doesn't seem to benefit the people who are being moved around, but it's benefiting somebody, though. You know?
Right. I want to go back to exploitation of the black community and talk about black conservatives. And I remember one of your tweets saying, you are willing to be critical of your community, but you're not willing to be paid to be critical and to shame the community.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? And what are your thoughts about black conservatives who do that?
Listen, I'm hard on black people. And I'm hard on black people because that's actually the community that I'm trying to impact. I'm the executive director of a STEM program in Detroit. Oh, wow. For the Detroit public school system, mostly blacks. I'm in the process of acquiring city land to do a senior living development. But in a city like Detroit that's 84% black, almost anything of that nature is going to be beneficial to the black community, right?
Yeah.
And so everything I do, I try to make it beneficial for us, right? And not because I hate anybody else, because I don't hate anybody. Yeah. Let's get that clear, right?
Wait, before you continue, why do you feel that you have to qualify that? Anytime, I'm from the Jewish community, so they do tons of money for our community. No one says, but it doesn't mean I hate other communities, or I don't see other communities have to qualify that. But black people, we always feel like if we say we're doing something for the black community, we have to say, but it's not because I hate other communities. Why do you feel like you have to qualify that sentence?
I said something earlier about a lot of black people just don't have the best vocabulary or articulation. And unfortunately, the fools in our community kind of find their way in front of the microphone and the TV cameras a lot. You know what I mean? And it creates this distortion of who we are. And if I'm in front of a microphone and a camera, I got to make it clear that I'm not one of those jackasses. Excuse my French. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because there's a lot. Listen, just on an aside, in every other community, the least intelligent people know they're least intelligent. They're quiet. They listen. They let the more intelligent ones do all the talking. Yeah. Not in the black community. It's the exact opposite. Right. The least intelligent ones are the ones that's always in front of the cameras.
Why?
That external validation. Got to prove something. And for us, the most intelligent ones tend to be quiet because they don't want to get targeted. They don't want people to know, we got to stop him. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's the Cory Bushes and the rest of the morons that jump out there in front of the camera and talking about this, that, and the third, and whatever. Cory Bush, anti-Israel. Yeah. Listen, I'm not pro-Israel or anti-Israel.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
But Cory Bush, anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian. I'm not anti-Palestinian or pro-Palestinian.
Right.
But one thing I know is that when Rashida Tlaib, who is Palestinian, was running, money came in from all around the country where was the money for Cory Bush?
Right. Where were your Palestinian friends?
Where was your Palestinian friends?
I always say, listen, look, I'm pro-Israel. You guys know I'm biased in that way, but I say, like, Palestinians are not marching for black people. I don't know why you guys are marching for them. You know, she complained about her opponent having $2 million, whatever, was being better funded. Listen, this is politics, Cory. You picked the side. You should have picked the side that you could win with. That's how politics is played. You know, that's why I can't be a politician, right? Because I'm just too truthful. Yeah. And, you know, but you also would be good because you understand the game.
Yeah, I do understand the game.
You'll be my strategist whenever I run.
So things like that. I was backing a guy that was running against Rashida Tlaib when she got John Conyers' seat for the 13th district in Michigan. The DNC, in my opinion, ran so many black candidates, and it happens a lot, that it splits the black vote and allows for someone who's not black to get in. The 13th district was like the second poorest district in the country at the time, something close to that. And Rashida Tlaib got elected talking about Palestine. She has never advocated for the people in the 13th district. As a matter of fact, shortly after getting in Congress through the 13th district, she changed over to the 12th district, which is like Dearborn and mostly Muslim and Arab. Because that's who she was. She used the black
people to get in, then switched over.
Yes. Wow. You see what I'm saying? No, she's not a bad person for that. We got to be smarter. You see what I'm saying? Like, she's not, she played the game.
So you're critical on the black people for that?
Yes. Because we always talk about people of color and all of this, and we use these ambiguous terms and classifications. And these people, they're people of color until they get what they want. Then they revert back to who they really are. Right. And you only have to blame yourself for being stupid. I think there's a saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We've been fooled 1,000 times already. Come on now.
Why is it, in your opinion, that black people almost are demanded to get behind everybody's social movement that has nothing to do with black people? Why do they recruit the black community? Why does the black community care about freeing Palestine when, quite frankly, I don't know a lot of black people who even care about the Middle East. And I don't know black people who vote for president based on foreign policy. That's not their issue. So why is it that, and it's not just Free Palestine movement, it could be LGBTQ, like we have to be face of everything, but why do they need the black community for that?
Because I'm not going to say why they need it, right? What I'm going to say is that the black voter tends to vote in a block. Like currently, I think the Latino population in America is 16.9%, and the black population is 13.1%. And that's the people that the census counted. That doesn't include the 15 million that came across the border, right? Right. So, but here's the difference with the Latino community. They all have diverse interests. Cubans have different interests than Mexicans.
Yep.
Have different interests than Puerto Ricans. You understand what I'm saying?
Like Cubans tend to be super Republican and conservative. Latino Mexicans tend to be more liberal. Like, yeah, you're right.
So they're not a block, right? But the black community tends to be a block. I think in the last election, black women voted 94%. So there really is no. It's money in the bank. You get black people behind anything. And what I don't like is the political sleight of hand that goes on, where they say that this affects black people, or they'll broaden the definition. This affects people of color.
Right.
And
it's never just that it affects Americans. They have to tend to like black people specifically.
Yeah, because those are the buzzwords.
Yeah.
To get everybody to go in there. It's really a bad statement on where they think we are intellectually.
Yeah.
And they'll continue to think that as long as it works.
Yeah, it's an insult, even with this
big time
voter ID thing. And they say, well, let's say if you're from Mississippi and you live in a rural area. And I'm like, okay, are the white people who live in rural areas also can't get an ID? But we don't ever hear about that. It's only blacks don't know how to get an ID, but we know how to get ID for drinking.
It's
and to drive and to everything else.
And I'm not a Republican or a Democrat.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, the only candidate that I ever got behind was a Democrat, and a progressive one. Not because he was a Democrat, by the way, but because I personally assessed him and figured out that he was good for the people with the things he wanted to do. Now, did I agree with everything that he stands for? Absolutely not. But it's politics. Yeah. If I can just get a few of those things, I move the scrimmage line. Right?
Yeah.
So it's the whole thing with the black and this, that, the other. Black people have been duped time and time again. And I just really wish that as a community, if we are a community, that we would focus on local elections.
Yeah, it's the non-sexy stuff.
The non-sexy stuff.
Yeah.
You got to focus on local elections and the school boards and things. If you really want to impact change, start with your zip code.
Yeah.
Start with your zip code. The presidential election is huge. I mean, when Mitt Romney and Obama went at it, both raised over $1 billion. You ask any black person how much money they donated to a candidate, and 99.99% of the times, the number's going to be zero. So you donate nothing. These lobbies and super PACs and whatever, donating over $1 billion, raising $1 billion.
Right.
Who do you think's on the front of the line to get something when the candidate gets elected? It's not you.
People, not you, because you didn't
put the
money up.
You see, and that's why I say play the local game.
Right.
Because that's something that could be a grassroots movement. I backed Coleman Young II. I was his #1 backer in 2017 when he ran for mayor in Detroit. He didn't have a chance. I didn't know that because I didn't know much about politics. I was just moving.
Yeah, watching what he was doing. You liked his values.
Yeah,
he was talking about. Yeah.
Then I backed him when he ran against Rashida Tlaib in 2018. And then in 2021, he ran for city council at large. I wasn't his #1 backer, but I didn't need to be at that time. I made his commercials and I donated the max that I could.
Oh, wow.
I made his campaign commercials. Yeah, you know.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
So I did. You got to get involved. And I don't live in Detroit.
Yeah, you live here. That's what I was going to ask. I'm like, wait, do you also live in Detroit?
No, I do not live in Detroit. What happened was I got to Detroit in 2016 for the first time, and they had over 100,000 abandoned homes. Wow. Detroit is 140 square miles. And the only place renovated is downtown, the 8 square miles. And that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for Dan Gilbert, who's Jewish, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, look.
Shout out to the Jews. It's Black and Jewish.
You know, so it's like, you know, when I got there, I was so disheartened by what I saw. And I told myself that this is the front line, and I'm a frontline fighter. So this is where I'm gonna be. So even from a distance, I'm trying to impact things because I had never seen a city that was overwhelmingly Black in such disrepair. And they could blame whoever they want, but it happened on their watch. They were the mayors, the council members, they were everything.
Yeah.
And this happened on their watch.
Yeah, all Black is what you're saying.
Look, the last one was Kwame Kilpatrick, and we know what happened with him.
Right.
And it's been a white mayor ever since, Mike Duggan.
Yeah.
The Black voters were so disenchanted with Black candidates that Mike Duggan, the current mayor, when he ran after Kwame fiasco, he ran as a write-in candidate. Imagine he ran as a write-in candidate and won. The Black voters were tired of Black politicians. What does that tell you about the politicians who were there?
Right.
We let each other down all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't talk about white people. White people, they gonna do what they do, man. Why y'all worrying about them? When people focus on whites and Jews and everybody else, it's because they're deflecting. They don't want to address what we're doing to each other. Because trust me, if we straighten that out, none of those other things would even happen.
I want to circle back to, you said 94% of Black women vote Democrat.
In the last 2 elections. Last 2 elections.
And we see with this election that more Black men are tending to lean conservative Republican. And I have a friend who has a theory. She's a Black woman who went to Ivy League school. She said, listen, Ashira, I believe that they, social engineer Black women to put us into high educational spaces. Black men aren't there. She said, even if Black men are at Ivy League schools with me, they still cannot move around the same way that I can in terms of building social capital as a Black woman. And so we are now the face and the leaders of our people in our home. And
with no real power, I might add.
Yeah,
but go ahead, keep talking.
Yeah, so her theory was that basically Black men are getting left behind.
Big time.
Black women are being put up to the front, and that really Black men, in terms of intellect, they have the answers and they can lead. It's just now there's a divide between us because we've gone off and been educated in these liberal institutions, some Black men as well, but we can build our social capital a bit faster and better than the Black man can. And then we're having these social issues because now, say a Black woman reaches a certain status of education. I'm not even talking about money, wealth, right? I'm just saying education status. Then she now wants to marry someone who's on the same quote unquote status and, doesn't want to marry the Black guy who has, I don't know, a vocational trade or something like this. And so she believes there's like this big divide between us. But I just want to get your thoughts on that and
listen,
Black love as well. Like
you got the right
Black
one.
Relationships and marriage, and what do you think about interracial marriage? All of it. Just tell me all your thoughts on all of that.
Okay. The Black woman has been weaponized.
That was the term, yes.
Against the Black man.
Okay.
And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think we got to be careful, right? A lot of people, because they lack the articulation, they will just say something like, white people weaponize Black women against us. There's a system in place that most white people aren't even aware of. They may benefit from it, but they're not even aware of it. So we can't hold them accountable, right? To build a strong community A strong black man is the foundation of a strong black family. A strong black family is the foundation of a strong black community. A strong black community is the foundation of a strong black nation. So if you want to destroy a people, you have to destroy the man, right? And there's absolutely an agenda to cut black men off at the knees. There's an article in the Atlantic from 1980 to 2013, 263,000 black men were murdered in America. Okay? That's more than every conflict and war post World War II. That's more casualties than Vietnam, Korea, the Gulf War, all of those, Afghanistan combined. Nobody says anything.
Wow. I could cry.
When they talk about, but see, I'm a black man and I'm for black men. See, I'm a strong black man. And I love black women.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what they have allowed to happen is that the person that gives them the rewards and the opportunity is oftentimes the same person that's denying us the opportunity. Now, some may say, well, why are you letting them deny you? That's an argument.
Yeah.
Because men have to be competitive. You understand?
Right.
You see, the thing with me is I don't get mad at people.
Yeah.
I just beat them.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's why when I hear men protesting, and I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Do your push-ups.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let's get in the fight.
Right.
If knowing is half the battle, you moving accordingly is the remainder. Black women, as your friend was talking about, 76% of Howard University student body are now female.
Yeah.
In Hampton, over 60% of their student body are women, right?
Right.
Now, it may seem like they're being, fast-tracked to success.
Yeah.
But let's look at how much student loan debt they're going to have when they get out of there.
Right.
And how long they got these degrees. See, they have a false sense of accomplishment. They're being aloof because they're not dealing with the real world. Like you getting out of school and you got $60,000, $70,000 minimum in student loans. I saw where Barack Obama and Michelle Obama didn't pay off their student loans until they got to the White House.
Wow.
Yeah, so you may not be the good catch that you think you are.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Be a little humble, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
Look at who your parents are. Go to work. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is a lot of delusion.
Yeah.
I find delusion is a bigger problem in the black community than racism. And racism is real, by the way.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you. I haven't really seen a racist that I was really impressed by, that I felt like, I can't take him.
Yeah.
I'll just be like, duly noted. I got you. You know, you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
But that's why we need men, though. What do they give these black women? Diversity jobs.
Yeah.
Claudine Gay at Harvard.
Right.
Look, they're going to be working in nonprofits, community relations, the diversity director. You are the diversity. Haven't you noticed you're the only black person in the company? You fool. Come on now.
Right.
Listen, people are enjoying the lies that make them feel good. See, I see
Is that back to that validation you were talking about?
They want to feel like I'm different. But are you really? You're just a hamster on that wheel. And at any given moment, you could be tossed off. I told you I'm the executive director of a foundation in Detroit, right?
Yeah,
And
STEM program.
STEM, that's right.
Yeah.
I wanted to expose the kids to STEM because I get tired of seeing black kids dancing and playing instruments in every city for money on the sidewalk. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's got to be more to us than that, right?
Yeah.
We are not the entertainment class. I mean, it seems that way, but we don't have to be that way, right?
Right.
I want us to be thinkers. I think we have that potential.
Yeah.
So we do that. Now, when I talk to different organizations, do you know who's the last person I want to see when it comes to raising money?
Who?
A black woman. But they're often in those positions, community relations.
Yeah. Why is that the last person you want to see?
And I'm generalizing here.
Okay.
But because black women in that corporate world can seldom exercise any power over anyone other than a black man. You see? And because if they try that with a white woman, they're going to lose their job. She's going to pull rank on them. She's going to go over their head. So the only time they get to feel powerful, and they may have other issues with black men. Maybe a black man broke her heart. Maybe her father. Maybe you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So here I come showing up and trying to help the kids.
Yeah.
And I got to deal with whatever baggage that she got
Right.
from her life.
Right.
Because I look like somebody who hurt her.
Right. Going back to what you said earlier about how the black community just need to look within to fix our problems, what is something that we could look within in terms of this situation to fix the problem between the black woman and the black man and in terms of relationship? Like, what are the faults of the black man that he could do to do better for the black woman, and what are the faults of the black woman that she can change and do better for the black man?
I'm just going to keep it as real as I always do.
Please.
First of all, brothers, a relationship, a wife, a family is pretty much a luxury, right? Mm-hmm. You ain't got no business looking for either unless you got your stuff together. And the longer you wait to take on a wife and family, the more likely you will get your stuff together if you focus on you, right?
Right.
It's very expensive to have children. It's not just a black thing, by the way. Japan, Europe, birth rates are down everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And the reason why is...
I kind of disagree with this a little bit, but go ahead. That's because my religious standpoint, but go ahead.
Look,
I say have the babies.
Listen.
Get married.
I say have the babies, but I say we got to make sure that we can take care, because most divorces come out of financial reasons.
That's true.
So we don't want to go into something sabotaging ourselves, right?
Right.
If we know that most divorces are the result of financial problems, well, let's not start with financial problems. Am I making sense? Look, so...
Let's start with another problem.
Communication.
People ain't getting divorced over that.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So I think for the brothers, they just got to remember, man, get your money right.
Right.
You know, you'll never lose women chasing money, but you will lose money chasing women.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, because we're looking for this instant gratification, there's a lack of discipline when it comes to just being an adult. See, these are the things we have to address before we start talking about driving while black,
right.
And all these other things, man.
Right.
Not saying they don't exist.
Well, Scoon, what do you think about, like, just in the dating market, right? So you're a black woman, you want to date a black man. In other communities, like, they're already ready to go. Maybe they own a house. They're just ready to take you on as a wife. And then it seems like when it comes to dating just in the market of black people, it's this notion of like, well, you have to help the men build. We have to build together. And we have this idea that as the black community, we're going to, black couple, we're going to build together. We're going to build this wealth. But I'm speaking from the educated black woman, because these are the people I hang out with, right? Mm-hmm. So they're looking at their white counterparts and they're like, well, no, Kendra, she went and just married
Siobhan.
Brian. And Brian, there's no building. I just move into his house and it's there, you know. But when it comes to like the black man, I have to now build.
Okay, let me say this, right?
And it's expected that I build. And black women want to build. They're like, yeah, you know, this is what is right. Some of us are like, this is what's right.
Let's be fair, right?
And our mama's been building and grandma's has been building. We tired of building. So then we see
that's the hand
Kendra over there with Brian and there's no building. It's just pop the baby out and stay home.
Look, that's the hand life dealt us, right?
Scoon, help us out.
I'm going to help y'all out right now. Please know
Did we build with the black man while he's a little down? Or did we say, yeah, we just going to go over here. It's already built.
I think a lot of black women, not just black women, but black men, black people are always looking at the best case scenarios in other groups. You see?
That's a good one.
Yeah, they are. They're always looking at the best case scenarios. Like if all of them are doing that, all of them are not doing that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them struggling too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why do you think some of them are so angry? Because life is kicking their ass. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and that's why they get mad when they hear us complain. Because they be like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't have all this money. Like, you know, life is a struggle for them too. Right. And I'm not here being, you know, empathetic or anything. I'm just being real. Like, we got to stop watching other people. Let them run their race. You got to run your race. It's feeding into
the delusion.
It's feeding into delusion, the entitlement and all of that. Yeah. You got to run your race. Who knows? You don't even know what's going on over there. Right. A lot of these guys, I don't have a scientific survey going here, but look at all these rich guys that end up sneaking around with transgenders, and you don't know what's going on. You stop worrying about other people.
Yeah.
Find somebody you like and somebody you think that's worth it.
Trustworthy.
And do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And don't worry about, you know, Siobhan and the rest of them. Yo, for real, don't worry about them. Let them live their life. I mean, look, you never know. You got to run your race. Yeah. You got to run your race.
So you gave the advice to the black man, which is get your finances in order.
Got to. Get serious.
Get serious. What is the advice to the black woman?
Understand, do not become an agent of chaos within the black community.
Break that down.
Well, don't be like those women that I talked about that when I met for the, donations for the foundation or whatever from these entities that were just blocking. This is for black kids. It's not going in my pocket. Listen, I don't get a dime from the foundation.
Right.
I put well over $60,000 of my own money into that foundation. Never took a dollar from it. Yeah. Like I'm not trying to line my pockets.
Right.
I'm really trying to help these kids. Whatever issues you got with somebody else, that's on them. However, I think black women just got to really understand what it's like for black men, not to make excuses, not to coddle them, but just understand that we are being blocked out for a reason. Historically, this has always been the case, not with black men, but all conquered people. The women became concubines, the men became slaves, eunuchs, whatever. Their DNA was removed from the gene pool. You understand?
Yeah.
This is in China. This is in the Middle East. This is everywhere.
It's not unique to here.
It is not unique. This is just the modern version of it.
Yeah.
This is all it is.
Yeah.
Unless you're a worthy man, a strong man, nature dictates that you don't even have the right to reproduce. You understand what I'm saying? And so you got to be strong.
Right.
You can't take it personal that things are tough for you. It means you just got to plant your flag, man. Like, I'm here.
Right.
And I ain't going nowhere.
Right.
And you'll find that other people will be like, we're gonna leave him alone. Let's go get those guys over there. You understand?
Yeah.
And that's how life works. Listen, man, this life is like a contact sport. It's war. And if you don't have that mindset, you're just going to be food for somebody. It doesn't mean you have to be mean, but you got to be on guard all the time. That's how I feel. I wake up every day ready to go to war.
Yeah.
Ready to fight for every dollar, fight for my freedom, and I'm not allowing anybody to take advantage of me in any way, black, white, or other.
That was such a powerful message. I want to thank you for coming on and discussing some serious issues, both in the Black community, the Jewish community. And I love that you really took this and not made it about race, but made it about people, made it about issues and how to solve issues. And I think that's how we should move forward. Can you please tell my listeners and viewers how to follow you and how to find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Curtis Scoon on Twitter, at ScoonTV on Twitter, ScoonTV Network on Twitter or X, ScoonTV on Instagram. I got a YouTube channel, but that I don't use. But most importantly, ScoonTV.com. That is my own platform where I've kind of transferred everything over to. It's a news aggregator. I have journalists from around the world. I have a journalist from Palestine. I'm looking for one from Israel. Somebody reach out to me at ScoonTV@gmail.com. And I got the ScoonTV app. Support independent media, independent thought. And I'm open. If I'm wrong, somebody can show me where I'm wrong, and I'll accept it and make the adjustment.
Thank you for having this conversation. I really appreciate it, and we have to have more like this.
Okay, thank you.
That is a wrap for this episode of the Black and Jewish podcast. Please like, comment, and share. Comment down below. What are your ideas about race? What are your ideas about the Black community, the Jewish community, how we can move forward? And where do you think America is headed? All right, I'll see you next week.